Hi, my name is Todd Leonard.
And my name is Herb Montgomery, and we're just talking.
Thank you for taking a moment to click those three buttons around our screen, the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon. We appreciate you all. I've always appreciate you joining us, and we look forward to sharing this time together with you.
So if you're new to this channel, each week Todd Leonard and I take a moment to talk about the upcoming weekend's lectionary reading from the Gospels. And our goal is to talk about those readings in the context of love and inclusion and social justice. Our hope is that our talking will be just talking, as in justice, but that also something we might say as we go back and forth would inspire you, along with us, to do more than just talking. So, Todd, what passage are we looking at this week?
We are in the Gospel of John in chapter 2. The first 11 verses, this is Jesus at the wedding or the wedding feast of Cana, at Cana.
Yeah. Yeah. So, man, there's again, it's the Gospel of John. So I'm going to be reaching here.
We love the Gospel of John, as everybody knows. We love the Gospel of John. John is our favorite. John is special to us.
For those of you who are new, none of that is true. Um, so as I was looking at preparing for our blog entries this week on our ministry's website, um, there's three major there's quite a few, but three major interpretations. Some people take this as to being John's typical, which is typical for the Gospel of John, contrasting the Johannine unique version, their unique version of Jesus and the Jesus story, with the Judaism out of which they evolved. These were clay pots, or the water in them would have been used for the ceremonial washings of Judaism. And Jesus takes this water that's used for washing and turns it into the best wine anyone at the party's ever had. And it's a contrast between the Judaism. It's a very I deem it as anti-Semitic. It looks at the Judaism out of which it came and shows how far superior their version of Jesus is. Some people look at this and say, you've saved the best for last. John was the last gospel that we have written in our canon. Some people interpret this as comparing John's gospel with the other three, that the other three are very kind of in the same step. And John's gospel is so unique and so different that it's the best for last. Some interpreters take it that way. And others uh, look at it as the one that's the best for last. The best comes last, or the last is the best. And I'm not as convinced on this one, but I can see the argument is that it's a contrast between this present world, the water of this present world, and the wine of heaven that we will have in the great by and by later.
Mm-hmm.
And the best is saved for last, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of in that Pauline thread of uh, where Paul says in Romans 8 that the sufferings of the present time are not even worthy to be compared with what's coming next. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
those were the three. There are others, but those are the three major ones.
Mm-hmm.
You got any thoughts on those? I don't like any of them.
Yeah, I mean, I I like I like the idea in general of Jesus giving a sign that he's on the verge of bringing something better.
Okay. Maybe
But
better than what they're presently experiencing. I'm
then,
okay with that as long as we don't say better than Judaism.
correct, correct. No, I
Better
and
than the
I would
garbage we're experiencing under Roman oppression? Yes.
yes, no, I don't want him. I don't want to say what I've got is better than Judaism. I would say taking that he identifies with oppressed Judaism and saying, I've come to bring something better for all of us. Uh,
If this
those of
story was in
us,
Luke's gospel,
yeah,
this would be in contrast between the water that Caesar's giving you and the wine that Jesus does. You know what I mean?
yes,
That's kind of a
yeah,
Lucan flavor.
hmm yeah.
I
That's a
could buy
good,
that.
yeah, that's a good insight. So yeah, so I can see where these other interpretations come from, and yeah, not fond. Um, but and of course, this is the whole. The other thing is this the first of 7 revelations of Jesus' supernatural power in John. John has seven key miracles spread throughout the gospel, his gospel narrative, uh, and this is the first. And so this is building Jesus up as supreme over everything else. And I think that you and I also are would say that this was not the purpose. In fact, Jesus seemed to try to run from any attempt at heightening him above being a son of man in the other gospels, while John seems to be on the John school, the John community that is writing this gospel is on a quest to make him supreme above other human beings, to make him son of God, and so I think that also is coming through here, and I'm not a fan of that, but I like the idea of Jesus giving a sign of something better is on the way.
I like that too. And I appreciate your word of caution with and I use the words like supremacy or exceptionalism. You know,
Mm-hmm.
John's lifting up Jesus in comparison to everyone else as better than everyone else or better than anything else. Has a long history in Christianity that has made Christians think that their version of Christianity is far superior to any other faith on the planet, which is which is it's just caused untold harm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking
Mm-hmm.
about European history when Christianity ruled the state. I'm thinking of anytime you feel like you're God's chosen and everyone else isn't, that bears really bad fruit in your life. Rather
And
than
when
that,
you
we're
have
all
to
siblings,
save everybody through your religion is the gateway of salvation, the only
and you can't
gateway
help
of
but
salvation.
feel morally superior to others when you're in that
Yeah,
headspace.
yeah.
It's just ugly and it's gross.
Mm, yeah.
I would much rather
And
say, we're all siblings around the same table than I'm God's favorite.
mm, mm.
You know what I mean? It doesn't feel good. I'm his chosen.
Yeah. And again, I think, you know, for people who, and again, let's be clear, we don't have a lot of newcomers who are regularly frequenting our broadcast. But for people who might be new to hearing this and might be new to this way of thinking that you and I are discussing, um, for a lot of Christians, it would sound odd for us to talk about the superiority complex of Christians because we phrase our salvation as we are sinners saved only by Jesus. And so we the traditional Christian understanding of being saved by Jesus, we don't think we deserve to be saved. We are only saved by Jesus. But this perverse thing, we get very defensive if the salvation of God would be granted to all, whether or not they believed in Jesus, all of a sudden becomes very possessive for us, and very uh, we become very selfish about that all of a sudden. And it does. And even though we say our salvation has nothing to do with us, we become very, oh, but everybody must be saved only through this way. And so um,
God's love is unconditional as long as you meet certain conditions.
yeah, I think this is, and when you point out that hypocrisy, that that tension, um, it's hard for a lot of folks to get their heads around, because it's been so ingrained for so long. Um, but it's the truth is what you see in the other gospels is you don't see a Jesus trying to get people to buy into him being the way. You see him saying, I am one of you, and together we are going to bring about better things, and God is going to lead us to a better place together. And
And it's not even about supremacy. It's about the way of justice and the way of love and the way of compassion and the way of inclusion. Those are universal truths that, to the degree that any faith out there teaches and promotes those ethics and values, we should be saying amen to.
hmm, absolutely, absolutely. And yet somehow yeah, somehow this gets we get caught up in, and it's again because Christianity emphasizes the Gospel of John, the writings of Paul. Jesus gets elevated far
Wine
above what,
versus water.
yeah, and Jesus himself becomes the wine rather than what he teaches in the synoptics, which is the message of God. It is the work of God through everyday human beings in the world that brings about goodness and mercy and justice for all.
That's a good segue into where I landed on this week. And that was and the more I looked at the various interpretations that we have as options, and the more dissatisfied I got with all of them, I started thinking about this make turning water into wine. And I was thinking about first, I thought about how, my parents used to use that saying, turning lemons into lemonade,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
the same thing as water into wine by any means. But but then I thought my thoughts went to that great womanist tradition, that clarion call in womanism, the womanist tradition that says, about making a way out of no way. What we have in this story is there's a crisis where you're at a wedding and I mean, it almost feels like first world problems, but you're at a wedding and you run out of alcohol, you run
Mm-hmm.
out of wine, right? And and this is the crisis for that in that context. And we're out of wine, and Jesus takes some water and makes wine out of it. He makes a way out of no way.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about crisis in our day here in 2025, especially as we are starting next Monday, about to embark on a new administration here in US politics, and the crisis that's going to create for who um, those who are outside of the system that's going to be created, the benefits of the system that's going to be created.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for those that are not going to be privileged by what's coming,
Mm-hmm.
um, and not just the absence of privilege, but actually being harmed. Uh, I still cannot shake this foreboding that we are about to face our own crises, many of us, over the next 4 years. And what does it mean to in those moments of crisis to look for the water pots. You know what I mean? To be winemakers, to turn our own water into wine. You
mm,
know what I mean? What does that mean to
mm,
make a way out of no way?
mm,
Um, I'm thinking of the abolitionist movement. I'm thinking of Stonewall and the LGBT movement. I'm
mm,
thinking of women, um, the women's suffrage movement, getting the vote, all of these historic movements where there was just obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, where there just seemed to be no way, and somehow water gets turned into wine by continued effort. And I don't know how. I don't know. I can't sit here and say, well, these are the steps. This is how you do it. But somehow, in those moments, the choices we make in those moments of crisis.
It
And I
takes
love the fact that the wine that's made is better than all the rest.
right,
It's not just wine, it's good wine.
right, yeah, yep,
Like injustice, how we respond to injustice can make good justice.
right, yeah. I think this is it. It takes creative, imaginative, life-giving people who recognize the moment and take advantage of it. The funny thing about this story is, in this story, it actually took a woman to recognize the moment for Jesus. It actually took Mary.
Yeah, he
It's
said, my
actually
time has not yet come.
Jesus. It's actually not my moment. That's Jesus missing. Jesus
I'll
actually
wait.
missed. Jesus
I'll
missed the
wait.
moment. Jesus.
Yeah.
Um, and Mary says, no, 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 no. Trust me. This is mother's intuition speaking here. Uh, let's let's go ahead and take advantage of this moment. Um, and and so there's some your womanist analogy works well here. Um, there are opportunities for people who are not so discouraged by the present situation that they miss moments that where life can be birthed into even the darkest moments. Um,
I just found out, Todd, that out of the 55 counties in West Virginia, that's the state I live in, my county is in the top two that ICE will be focusing on in 2025.
wow.
We have an enormous amount of turkey farms in this county
Oh
that
yeah.
hire a significant amount
Yep.
of migrant workers. And we are out of 55, the top two in the top two counties that are on ICE's radar for
Mm,
deportation. And there's a movement here. This is such a small community, but there's a movement here among certain churches. This is Appalachia, so by far not all churches, not even most churches,
yep.
dare I say, just one or two churches. But
Mm,
they're already looking at, they're taking steps right now, preparing to be sanctuary churches where people
yeah.
can find refuge. And so,
Yeah.
again, what does it mean to for us to be able to turn whatever water we're given into wine?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nobody asks, nobody asks to be born in times like this,
Yeah.
right? And I love what you just said about Jesus saying, his time is not. Our time may be right in front of us.
Yeah.
Jesus said, "My time is not yet come." Ours is. I mean, we're going to see, but ours may be right on top of us.
Yeah. And it may be, and yeah, we may be called to the time of being in in a time of exile. We may be called, as Esther was, to bring up another
For
womanist
such a
figure
time as this,
for such a
yes.
time as this, as it bring to rise up in a time of exile. Uh, and so it may be that rather than in the time when everything is in our favor. That may be the moment where, at this time, where the resources are thin and the headwinds are
Mm.
blowing the wrong direction. That this is where we rise up. So yeah, I think this is a great metaphor. Perhaps not what it was intended to say, but I think we can take it and run with it and
We can
say
reclaim it.
we can reclaim it and say we can be winemakers with jars of water.
Whatever
We,
water we're given.
whatever we're given, we can make something better if we're watching for the opportunity. God will give us the opportunity to make some wine.
Yep. Yep. I like it. So that's all I've got with this story this week. Oh no, that's not true. That last phrase. I do want to comment on that last phrase. What is the last phrase? What Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs. You're talking about 7 of them.
Mm-hmm.
The first of the signs through which he revealed his glory. That reminded me of Irenaeus. I'm not a big fan of Irenaeus, but once in a while he comes up with some good sentences. I mean, he was a champion of justice for the poor to the extent that he understood it. Um, but his phrase in the infamous book, not famous, infamous book against heresies, which I think did more harm than good. But he wrote, "The glory of God is a human being fully alive." So here
Mm,
we're talking about Jesus revealing his glory by turning water into wine. Irenaeus says the glory of God is a human being fully alive. And that made me just stop and say, well, how? And in the vein of what we've been talking about the last few weeks of loving our neighbor, how am I going to dedicate my energies this coming year to making sure my neighbor has everything they need to be fully alive, not oppressed,
mm,
not marginalized, not deported, to
mm,
be not denied human basic rights, not to be treated as less than or othered? What does it mean for me to dedicate my efforts to ensure that to take responsibility in making sure that my neighbor has what they need to be fully alive?
mm,
Collectively as a community, can we do that? Can we create a human community where we are collectively ensuring that all of us have what we need to be fully alive? I just those are questions that are banging around in my head this week. The late Gustavo Gutierrez said that poverty um, is early death.
mm,
It's a death that comes sooner than what it should.
mm,
And what does it mean to be life giving, to be fully alive instead?
mm.
So those are just random ponderings from that these signs reveal Jesus' glory. What does that mean? Glory for what? And I still like Irenaeus making it that simple, that the glory of God is just each one of us being able to live to our fullest.
Yeah. And a wedding feast is a good image of
Yeah.
living life to the fullest. Is really in this culture, especially, this is one of the high points of cultural celebration, and where you're celebrating love, you're celebrating family, and you're enjoying the best food, the best, and in this case, the best of the best drink. And in this moment, you are seeing Jesus help make life the best. It is L'chaim, and you are getting that moment, and this symbolizes the life to the full that he's trying to bring in this justice movement that he's trying to create. Again, that we are superimposing upon the Johannine writing. Um, this is
Well, I
this
have no doubt that this is not what the Johannine community intended this story to teach.
no, but
But it's more life giving than those lessons.
here's the thing, man, and listen to this: is we know the biblical writers took all sorts of stuff from places that had nothing to do with what
The
had
original authors did not intend the applications they were making.
people just grabbing stuff wherever they could and putting it together to make it say stuff that they wanted it to say. So we are fully within our rights as biblical interpreters to take stuff that was not in its original that did not say what it is saying in its original context, and we are phrasing it, and we are putting it into the context of other parts of the scripture and saying in the other parts of the scripture this would tell this story. That's what we're doing. So
Yeah, I like it. I
you and
like it.
I are
There's
being
biblical precedence for what we're doing.
biblical interpreters. We're not being heretics, faithful biblical interpreters.
I like it. I like it. I just like someone telling me I'm not being a heretic. That feels that's
I'm the
new.
only one
That's
who
different than what I'm used to.
I'm the only one who tell you that, but at least
I
you're one.
appreciate you, Todd. Even if you're the only one.
It's just at least there's one. So well, anyway, thanks, man, for bringing up a good way of reclaiming this. This is good stuff.
I'm sure there are others. If anybody's got a better way of reclaiming this story, put it in the comments. We'd love to read it.
Yeah, yeah. But in the meantime, go and make some good wine and bring the goodness of God into this world, even in the craziest, most difficult times that we might be facing.
Yeah.
Tell us about Renewed Heart.
So, Renewed Heart Ministries, if you're unfamiliar, Renewed Heart Ministries is a ministry dedicated to helping people find the intersection of their faith and concerns towards social justice in whatever area of social justice you have a passion for. There's just a multitude of resources that we have on our website. They're all free. I do want to say a special thank you out there to all of our supporters that make Renewed Heart Ministries resources possible, that fund our work so that we can provide those. If you would like to join them in supporting Renewed Heart Ministries, you can do so by going to renewedheartministries.com and clicking donate. But just if you're unfamiliar with the website itself, go to renewedheartministries.com and check it out. Also, we're about to get a new website. Our website's about to get a facelift, so we're excited about that. So look for that in the next coming weeks. My book, Finding Jesus, a Fundamentalist Preacher, discovers the socio-political and economic teachings of the Gospels, is available on Amazon, Kindle, paperback, also on Audible and audiobook format. You've got this show on YouTube that we sponsor. You've got also the Social Jesus podcast on the Choircast Network. You can find that Social Jesus podcast on all major podcast carriers. And then lastly is the Social Jesus, kind of like social justice, but Social Jesus blog on Pathos. But you can find all those out there. What about you, Todd? What's going on with you this week? Tell us about your coaching.
Um, uh, Still coaching. If you can be if you would like to process some stuff and just do that with somebody who will listen intently and might just ask some good questions and maybe give you a couple good insights after listening well to you. I'm your guy. And then a note that I am still in a learning process myself. I'm in my counseling master's degree program, and I found out this week that I've got to stop doing this with my hand, with my face. Can't do that, especially when you're doing counseling and coaching online. The hand anywhere in the screen is a barrier to connecting. And so to have my hand, especially, yeah, don't do that, Herb. I've lost all my connection to you. But to do stuff like this is bad. And I love to have my hand here pondering what Herb is saying, and I have to remove it. So watch in the weeks to come. Hopefully this will lessen and you'll see less of my hand so that there's not an obstacle to us connecting. Uh, anyway, that's I know absolutely, and nobody would care to know that information, but I thought I would share that anyway.
I'm going to get you one of those rubber hands on a stick for Christmas next year, Todd. So you can just use that once in a while.
Oh, that would be, yeah. Okay. Yeah. And it'd be a back scratcher as well.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go. All
All
right,
right.
man.
Anything else?
Well, well, and I don't think there is. If you don't have anything else, thank you everyone for listening this week. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you making time for our conversation here, and I hope it's been a blessing to each one of you.
We'll see you guys next week.